So next, let's shift to the sky and hear from Bob Pertierra. Bob Pertierra is the Vice President of Advanced Manufacturing and Supply Chain for the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. I think one of the guys who has a longer title than my Center of Innovation for Logistics. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces out there in the audience. It's great to have you all here. My role at the Metro Atlanta Chamber is to recruit and grow the supply chain and advanced manufacturing industry. I also manage our Supply Chain Leadership Council. Our current chair is Mike Orr, the head of supply chain for Genuine Parts Company. One of our past chairs is here, Mark Holofield from the Home Depot, and several of our members are here in the audience, so glad to have you all here. One other thing I do is help the airport, and for the last 10 years I've been working with the airport to help recruit new carriers and routes to the region. So based on that experience, I want to give you a quick update on air and the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and where things stand today. Interestingly, talking about rail, the Metro Atlanta Chamber started 153 years ago with 12 businesses that got together to dispute rail freight rates. And it was called the Mercantile Association. So we can see we have deep roots in logistics, and the Chamber's been involved in logistics for a long time. But first, let's see, there we go. I'd like to tell you a little story. So, if I told you that a racetrack, Coca-Cola, a crop dusting company, and a little leadership sprinkled in would become the world's busiest airport and a center of global commerce, you'd tell me I was crazy. Wouldn't you? I'm a little bit crazy. I used to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. People tell me that anyway. But if you look at that picture there, that field, Candler Racetrack, was owned by Asa Candler, the Candler family, Coca-Cola, and that racetrack would later become Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. At the time, William Hartsfield learned this the other day. The Army, who had responsibility to carry the mail, needed an airfield, and the time was ticking, and they said they were going to potentially move some of their operations in Fort McPherson and other things away if they didn't get an airfield. So Candler Racetrack became Candler Field, and the city later, they first leased it and later purchased it, and that crop dusting company that moved here in 1941 later became Delta Airlines. And as they say, the rest is history. So amazing what a little investment can do and some forethought, some good leadership. So what you see here is a picture. On the top left is the airport in 1960, and below is the aerial of the airport today. And what you can see is we used to have the cross runways, and now we're in a parallel system. But here's the proof, what this investment can do and has done. In 1960, Birmingham and Atlanta were both competing to build this airport, and we're roughly, basically the same size in population. Today, Birmingham, Alabama is 1.1 million people, and Metro Atlanta is 5.4, approaching 5.5 million people. So a 5x increase in growth. Increase in size and population. So becoming a global air hub and evolving from a rail hub to an air hub has really meant 5 times economic growth. And this is not a fairy tale. You know, this is true. This is reality today. So where are we today? As we said, the world's most traveled airport, the busiest airport, more than 95 million passengers last year, 646,000 plus metric tons of cargo within 2-hour flight of 80% of the U.S. population. And obviously it's great. You can fly direct pretty much anywhere. How many people flew direct to get here to Atlanta today or yesterday? It's easy. It's easy to get here. Companies like that. But we have not rested on our laurels. We've been investing over time in this asset. Since 1999, $4.4 billion have been invested in improving the plant and facility of Hartsfield-Jackson. The most recent announcement was the international terminal, which hopefully some of you have all flown on. It's a great improvement. But importantly, the 5th runway addition was a $1.2 $2 billion project. So, and another $1.4 billion for the terminal. So we continue to invest in this asset, and it continues to help us grow. And arguably, Hartsfield-Jackson is the economic engine of the Southeast. That the economic impact that it has and the economies that it supports and the companies that it helps and reach markets certainly is. And you can see some of the numbers there. More than $16 billion in sales impact for the Southeast region. For Georgia, you're talking more than $3 billion in wages, 62,000 direct and total jobs. But most importantly, what does the airport deliver? And for you, for your company, and for companies that use it, is global access, right? Access to markets is ultimately what companies need, and companies need all modes that we've discussed today, we are discussing. They need all modes, that's critical. But the air mode is particularly important when things are expensive and need to be there quickly. Our friends from UPS know. But all these companies expressed that, you know, the most important factor, one of the most important in them choosing Atlanta for their new facility was the ability for Hartsfield-Jackson and those connect their people and their goods to global markets. And CEO Bill Nudie said, having Hartsfield-Jackson's connectivity gives us global access to our clients. Porsche, who's putting their new North American headquarters right next to the airport at the Aerotropolis site, also said it was a key factor. And Baxter, who announced their more than $1 billion expansion, also said it was one of the principal reasons they chose Atlanta. And the last example I'll give you is Kia, the auto plant in West Point. And it said it was not only important, it was essential that they were located near this airport. And to prove that point, I mean, one of the facts there, Asiana Airlines, soon after they made that announcement, started cargo service. And more than 65% of the volume on that Asiana cargo flights every week are destined for the Kia plant. So definitely an important link. Now, how have we done? Well, since the 1996 Olympic Games, which was sort of Georgia's international coming out party, in terms of air, we've had 124% growth in international air cargo volumes. The blue line is the total volumes. Domestic has been relatively flat, but we continue to grow in international cargo volumes. We have 9 out of the top 10 global cargo airlines fly into Atlanta. 16 all-cargo airlines, you can see them here. UPS, one of our hometown airlines. Interestingly, because of the number of flights, the wide-body aircraft that Delta has, Delta is, by volume, still our largest cargo carrier, even though they're not an all-cargo airline. So what flies on these airplanes? Here's kind of what the top commodities that are moving, but basically, if it's expensive, if it needs to move fast, if it's perishable, if it's damageable, it's going to go on air. Some recent examples, a whole aircraft load full of iPhones that came with chase vehicle and lead vehicle and security. Ladies will enjoy this, a half an aircraft full of Jimmy Choo shoes. The largest concrete pumper truck in the world flew out of Hartsfield-Jackson to go to Fukushima to help plug the reactor disaster there. Certainly pharmaceuticals, medical devices, scanners, et cetera. So a lot of important things and expensive things that need to be there right away, move on air, and it's a critical link for our economy. So where are we sort of on trends and issues? I think looking forward, potentially there will be some impact of the sequester as TSA and Customs have instituted no overtime rules, so it may hurt us a little bit in terms of clearing freight and clearing passengers to fly. We've seen a strong uptick in manufacturing, which, as we've mentioned, really benefits freight movers and logistics service providers. Most of these products need to go on air, or truck, or rail. We're seeing that. Aerospace and auto parts segments are very strong, and Georgia is positioned well with the new Boeing plant in South Carolina and the Airbus plant in Alabama to kind of be in the middle of both where the new auto plants are as well as the aerospace plants to be able to service both of those customers very well. And then promisingly, international cargo volumes are up about 5% in January for year over year, so that looks good. And overall, Hartsfield is in its next stage of planning for the future. The 2030 cargo development plan is underway and should be completed shortly in the near future. So you can see, with a little leadership, some investment in the future, Hartsfield-Jackson has positioned Georgia and Atlanta well to compete in the future and make this a better place to live.